It is a real mystery. Yes, 15 years almost to the day since the death of Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed in Paris. Now, my next guest is the author of a new book entitled Paris-London Connection, The Assassination of Princess Diana, where he details out the names of 26 key witnesses who participated, he claims, in an official cover-up, and as a result committed perjury in the 2007 and 2008 London inquests. So let's go live down to Australia now and speak to the author of the book, John Morgan. Good morning, John. How are you this evening for you?
Yeah, good evening, Steve. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
No, well, thanks for coming on. Now, John, before we talk about this book in particular, just a little bit of background on yourself, because you have, you've got 3 other books. I've got them here, actually. Quite thick books. You've spent a long, long time and an awful lot of work investigating this story, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. There's actually a couple more books that have been written since then, before this Paris-London connection as well. Those books were a series of books called the Diana Inquest series, and they forensically analysed the evidence that was brought into the London inquest, the 6 months of transcripts, and also the Operation Paget report from the British police. And also I was also provided with hundreds of documents from within the British police investigation that weren't shown to the inquest jury. So those books are based on a compilation of the evidence from those sources and an analysis of comparing what witnesses said and about what occurred, and figuring out who was lying by putting together all the evidence of all the witnesses.
Okay, well, let's just start at the very, very top here, okay, because there's lots of people will be listening and saying, look, it was an accident. It's just because she was the most photographed woman in the world, one of the world's most beautiful women. She was an icon. People need to find, and she was too young to die. People need to find some kind of justification as to how it happened. It was quite simply the driver was drunk, driving too fast through that tunnel in Paris, which I've been through myself, and it was an accident, as simple as that.
Yeah, well, that's the natural thing, and this is one of the reasons why an intelligence agency like MI6 would choose a car accident to kill someone in such a high profile as Princess Diana, because there's 3,300 people die in car accidents around the world every day, and so as soon as everyone heard that Diana had died in a car accident, the normal thing is that you just presume it's an accident. And right from the very start, really, there were unanswered questions that arose, and I didn't actually become really particularly interested in it until I saw the book published by Paul Burrell, where he had a copy of a letter handwritten by Diana predicting that she would die in a car crash. So that sort of had to raise questions. That was done published 6 years after the crash, but you had to sort of think, well, how could Diana predict how she was going to die? And so when you actually analyse the evidence of the witnesses, there's lots of witnesses who saw the car surrounded by powerful motorbikes, sort of between 3 to 5 powerful motorbikes as it approached the tunnel on the final journey between the Place de la Concorde and the Alma Tunnel. And you sort of, people say, well, that was the paparazzi, but of course it wasn't, because the paparazzi were all known on that night, and they were driving either cars, small cars, or scooters, and there was only one paparazzi who actually had a motorbike. But the witnesses, the several witnesses who saw that, saw the car surrounded by these motorbikes that were actually pursuing the Mercedes at high speed, and that's just one factor. And then there's other witnesses that saw a flash in the tunnel, and there's and the evidence from the witnesses is that it was an ominous car chase. It wasn't just a sort of, casual thing. And, and then you put together the evidence of how Diana was treated in the ambulance. She actually survived the car crash, and then it took 1 hour and 43 minutes to get to the hospital. And you analyse the tapes of the conversation between the people in the ambulance and the base. You can see that these guys they didn't have their interests at heart. The two doctors that were running the ambulance.
Okay. We'll stop there for just a sec, then, John. Just stop there for a second, because I just want to go through a couple of those points. Okay. If they wanted to kill her, then a car accident is not. I understand what you're saying about, no one's going to notice in a car accident, but it's not a guaranteed way of killing anybody, particularly when she's in an armoured plated Mercedes-Benz, which is going to survive an awful lot. She did survive.
This is right.
Yeah, she did survive, but you allege that the doctors basically, the quote from the book is, effectively murdered Diana in the back of their ambulance 6 minutes after arriving at the Paget Hospital, and Diana took her last breath. Now, 1 hour 43 minutes does, I concede, seem a long time to get from the scene to that hospital, and there were hospitals that were closer. That's been published. But if it was this conspiracy, if this did happen, why would they be releasing the tapes of the doctors in the ambulance to the control room? They would surely be covering that up.
Sorry, I missed the last part of your question.
Why would they release those tapes of the doctors? Surely, if it was a conspiracy and those doctors were involved...
why would there be tapes? Yeah, well, the thing is that there's only, not everyone's involved in the conspiracy. Like the person on the other end of the conversation, the person at the base, he wasn't part of the conspiracy. And the SAMU ambulance people themselves weren't part of the conspiracy. The two doctors who were in the ambulance were.
And who were those two doctors? Well, that's a strong allegation.
There was Dr. Jean-Marc Martino.
Yeah.
He was the main doctor, and Dr. Arnaud de Rossi. And then there were three other people in the ambulance as well as
Okay,
Diana.
And what's the background of those two doctors?
Well, there's very little available on their background except that, Martino, he had recently qualified as a doctor. That they were French doctors. They worked for SAMU, but this is how the MI6 and DGSE, the French intelligence, they operate around the world, employing people in normal businesses. This is how the intelligence agencies operate. And Richard Tomlinson, who was an ex-MI6 officer, he gave evidence on this at the inquest that's how they operate. They employ people in different areas, of life, and these people can be just normal people. They're just your average person, but they are employed as an MI6 agent, and they might be used, every now and again to help with an operation. So, so Henry Paul was working as an MI6 agent in the Ritz Hotel. He was a security officer there in the Ritz Hotel. These are people that intelligence agencies use when they need to in different areas of life.
Okay, so what role did these two doctors play? What exactly did they do, allegedly?
What did they do?
Yeah.
Well, what they did was they delayed things as much as they could, and then the other thing is that in the ambulance report, it shows that when Diana was taken into the ambulance and examined, the doctor knew straight away that there was a thoracic trauma, and that's something that you would expect at a high-speed crash like that the doctor would, that the patient would have some sort of trauma from that sort of accident, not wearing a seatbelt. And so they saw that there was a thoracic trauma, but when they rang the base to let them know the details so that the base could work out who to have, which specialist to have at the hospital when they arrived. They actually said, the doctor actually said twice to the doctor at the base, nothing for the thoracic. Now, in the documentaries that were written up as a result of the examination, it says that she had a thoracic trauma. So the doctor knew she had a thoracic trauma. The phone call to the base took place after that, and the doctor specifically said nothing for the thoracic twice. So that's part of the evidence. The other evidence is that, and this all came out at the inquest, and the transcripts were given at the inquest as well, that that they were pouring in catecholamines into Diana, which increases the blood pressure because her blood pressure was 70, which they considered it was sort of marginal, not high. It wasn't particularly low though, but anyway, they poured in the catecholamines into her body, knowing that she had the thoracic trauma and she could have an internal injury. And the evidence, the medical evidence at the inquest showed that if you do that's going to increase the blood pressure, but it also places increased pressure on any possible internal damage. And the thing is that, and it becomes clear when you see the transcripts from the base is asking, when are you leaving there, the tunnel? Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, yeah, just in a couple of minutes, but they don't leave. They stay there. And the thing is that knowing that she had a thoracic trauma in a high-speed crash like that, they knew that the only way to deal with that was to get her into operating theatre in a hospital and have it dealt with, because that was the only way that a person could survive if they had an internal injury as a result. And it was very reasonable to presume that there would be an internal injury. So this evidence is quite strong.
Okay, but John, it's not possible that they were just trying to get into some kind of stable situation before setting off in the ambulance.
No, because she already was, and this is something that the expert at the inquest said too, she was stable enough for them to just rush her to hospital. 70 blood pressure, she had a pulse of 100, that was stable enough, they should have just taken her straight to hospital.
Okay, so who were the other...
43 minutes, it's just... Sorry, yes.
Sorry, there's a slight delay in the line, so sorry about this, it's just the distance that we're speaking.
No worries.
Who were the other three individuals in the ambulance?
Well, there was the driver, Michelle Massadirth, and then there was a couple of what they're called interns, but at the inquest, it wasn't revealed actually. At the inquest they only heard about, I think it was 3 people. So there are actually 5 people when you look at the documentary evidence from the ambulance report. There were actually 5 people. There were 2 trainees, which they weren't. One was properly named, surname was Kapfer, and the other one was just had the name Fayed, but they weren't properly named. It's very strange that they weren't. There wasn't detailed evidence at the inquest outlining who the 5 people exactly were. Only Martino and De Rossi were cross-examined at the inquest. So the other 2 people are really mystery people, and that sort of raises questions as well. Why aren't they being upfront about who was in the ambulance,
Okay, now...
That's one of the main aspects, yeah.
Now, John, there's a lot... I'm not going to go over a lot of the old ground that people do, people know that, what happened that night, and there's the story of the Fiat Panda, yeah. There's the flash, there's the fact that the cameras were out within the tunnel, how long, we've just gone over how long it took for the ambulance to go, and why did it choose that hospital. Lots of different questions that will always...
Yeah, the wrong hospital, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the fact that it got to the hospital and then sat outside for 6 minutes.
That's right, yeah, exactly. That was, and one of the journalists actually saw the ambulance rocking in that period, and also saw a doctor. There were actually 2 journalists there. One of them gave witness that a doctor got out of the front and went into the back during that 5-minute stoppage. And at the inquest, they were asked to explain that, and he just said, "Oh, we were just adding to the drip because we thought there was a possibility she might have a cardiac arrest, which she didn't actually have." So it's sort of, that doesn't explain a rocking ambulance if you're just adding something to the drip. So So that's a big query as well, and the fact that she arrived after the 1 hour 43 minutes, and then within 6 minutes she actually stopped breathing, and that was it. She never recovered her breath. So the doctors at the hospital did the best job that they could, but they didn't have a thoracic specialist on hand because the base had been told nothing for the thoracic. And so after she arrived at the hospital, the first thing the doctor did was he took x-rays, and he realised straight away that we needed a thoracic specialist, and he was asleep in bed, so they rang him, and he arrived about, I think it was 6 or 7 minutes after she died. So, even though her time of death was 4 a.m. officially, she actually died at 2:12 a.m. As far as stopping breathing.
Okay. Now,
yeah.
Tony Blair apparently had prior knowledge of the killings and has subsequently lied about the content of his final conversation with Diana, you allege in the book. Now, how do you know this?
Yeah, well, it's in his book. I think it's called A Journey. It's only published a couple of years ago, 2010, and in his book he outlines a conversation he had with Diana, and he said, look, I warned her off, Dodi. We discussed that issue at Checkers. They met at Checkers. He says the meeting was in July and 1997, the month before the crash, and there was a meeting at Checkers on July the 6th. That's the only meeting he had with her. That was the last meeting he had with her before she died. And the reality is that she only met Dodi on July the 14th. So he has lied about that. He has made up a full conversation about warning Diana about Dodi even before she had met Dodi. So that sort of is quite shocking, really.
Hold on, can I just clarify what you're saying there, because that's news to me.
Yeah.
Are you saying she had not met Dodi before the 14th of July?
That's right. She had met him over the years, one or two times.
But not really started this relationship until the 14th of July?
No. Well, the relationship didn't even start until... she met him on July the 14th, but they weren't into a relationship. That was when the boys were at Mohammed Al Fayed's villa in the south of France, but they didn't come home from that until about, I think it was the 20th when they came home. Okay, so the relationship developed after that. So
right. Well, that's only a month. That's only a month between her starting the relationship and her being killed, which my understanding was that one of the theories as to why she was killed by MI6 was because of the relationship with a Muslim and what that could have mean for the Crown. That doesn't stack up if she's only had a relationship for a month. They were pretty fast off the mark.
Yeah.
So
that motive, the motives for the assassination, they were basically two things. There was her dealing in the landmines.
Yeah.
Her coming out very strongly against landmines and walking through the minefields in Angola in January 97 and then in August 97 in Bosnia. But her very strong stance on the landmines, trying to destroy the industry, that upset the arms dealing nations of the UK, France and the US, because even though she was talking about landmines, and the US is the one that failed to sign the treaty, that took place a month after that, but France and Britain did sign it. But the reality is that Diana was a humanitarian, and she was against the human suffering that was caused by the landmines. She wouldn't have stopped at landmines. Once she had eradicated landmines, she would have been moving on to other weapons and that. So it was basically, that was an affront to the arms dealing nations, and so that was a big issue, because we tend to forget that she was an extremely powerful force. She was the most photographed woman in the world. When she was walking through those minefields in Angola, nearly everyone who was alive can still remember that. The TV images of her walking through the fields had a huge impact. The media coverage, huge. She had a huge impact whenever she spoke out. When she touched the AIDS patient, she had a huge impact on the whole perception of people towards AIDS. She was an extremely powerful figure, and towards good. She was doing good things.
But to kill her?
She was a humanitarian.
To kill her for that? I just find that a bit hard to swallow.
You find that hard to swallow? What's that?
That they would kill her just because she started getting involved in the landmine situation and where she was going to go next. I find that hard. That the arms.
Well, that's one motive. Now the other motive is from the royal family's viewpoint. She was a lot of trouble, and when you go back to 1992 when she collaborated with Andrew Morton in the book, and gave out information about the royal family, which was unprecedented. That she, that caused trouble. And then when you build up as a result of that, the Queen brought about the separation following in December of that year, 1992, and then in 1995 when she went nationwide on the Panorama, again you've got a situation where she's upsetting people in high places, particularly the senior royals. And then following that, the Queen started the movement towards making sure there was a divorce between her and Charles. She started talking to the Archbishop and the Prime Minister about bringing about a divorce, and then that's what happened the following year in August 96.
But has she been? Was she any more trouble than Sarah Ferguson has been to the royal family, and some of the stuff the antics that she's got up to?
Of course she has. Well, no, Diana was immensely more trouble. She was in a much more closer position. She was a much more senior royal, she caused a great deal of trouble. And the thing is that she was a powerful person, When she went on Panorama, we live here in Australia, and it was a big thing here, It's sort of, these things are huge. And then when she, took William and Harry to Mohammed Al Fayed's villa in the south of France, well, then again, she's taking the future King of England into Mohammed's place for a holiday. Well, he was looked on as a person of ill repute by the senior royals.
I can understand that. Okay, well, look, you've spent 6 years at least investigating this. It's probably going to be one of those stories that we're never, ever going to find out really what happened. But in your book, in this new book that you have, you name 26 key witnesses who you alleged lied there. There's a whole lot of detail there that if people get a hold of the book, they can read the detail and look at the work that you have done. And it is a lot more detail than you'll find in some other books. And then people can make their mind up. But basically, your basic allegation is it was MI6 on the orders of senior figures in the royal family, and it was a state-authorised assassination in cooperation with the French.
Sorry, in cooperation with
the French authorities.
The French, yeah, absolutely. The French were definitely on board. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Right. Okay. Do you think though? You're totally convinced of this, John, aren't you?
Oh, look, I've done this research, and if you go through, that's just one small book. The real evidence is in the Diana Inquest series books. That Paris-London connection is a summary of the evidence in there. So it's an easy read for people who just want to know what the story is, and that's the story of what took place. It's backed up by the 6 volumes of the Diana Inquest series, and that series is solid evidence from the official sources. It's from the police report, from the inquest, the 6 months of inquest, 7,000 pages of transcripts, and from the hundreds of documents that were released to me from within the British police investigation that the jury were not shown. They were not shown things like the post-mortem report and the toxicology report for Princess Diana.
Okay, well,
the jury are investigating the death of the person, and they're not showing the post-mortem report and the toxicology report. It's just crazy.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and people could go on, look up John Morgan on Google, and you'll get access, or on Amazon, and you'll get access to all his books there. And I'm going to end this by leaving you with this thought. QC, Michael Mansfield, the well-known QC in the UK, who served throughout the 6 months of the whole London inquest, has said of John's books, "I have no doubt that the volumes written by John Morgan will come to be regarded as the magnum opus on the crash." So I think someone like Michael Mansfield coming out and saying that, congratulations to you, what you've done, John. John, I've run out of time for this morning. We've got to go to the news. Thank you so much for joining me live from Australia. I wish you all the very best of luck on your quest to bring out the truth. And as I said, John Morgan on Google or on Amazon, and you'll get access to all the books there. And the latest one being called Paris-London Connection. John, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve.
Okay, and you take care.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll see you later, John.
Okay.
Watch out for MI6.
Yeah, we got the door locked.
Okay, I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.